All right, my recording is on. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Executive Committee meeting for Gateway to the Rockies Opioid Council Region 10, also known as GROC. My name is Dr. Chelsea. I serve as the program manager. We have a pretty packed but not overwhelming agenda today. We'll start with some attendance. Commissioner Dahlkemper.
Here.
Commissioner Marlin. I did see him. There, I see his face.
He's here.
Okay, we'll go Commissioner
Wait,
Holland
George.
first.
I'm here.
Mayor Bud.
I am here today. Thank you.
Michael Miller. Don't think he's with us. Dr. Ryan.
Here.
And Marie Larson.
Chelsea, today's a county holiday.
Oh, I had no
So-
idea.
I'm on, but yeah, some take next Monday, but we switched for
I'm
Mother
so-
Cabrini Day.
I'm so
Yeah.
sorry. Eric John, would I still be able to do decision making if I'm minus 2 people?
I think you have a quorum, don't you? Don't you have 5 members?
1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. So first, just some general updates. Our new website did launch on October 1st. So this is what it looks like. We are still doing some transition of content. So Drew and Sherry have taken over most of that for me with the more difficult stuff. And then Drew will be passing off to me on Wednesday of this week. So please bear with us while we are adjusting some of the content now that the pages are live and I'm able to get in there, but just an update. I'm also working with Rob and Anai to do a finance dashboard. So we'll get that embedded in here in the next couple of months, but we have some placeholder information there. Commissioner Dahlkemper brought up that the September meeting was a little lull. We did have a lot of policy stuff in there. And so we wanted to talk about some ways that we could increase engagement with the group. My first thought was having this staged meeting format with the advisory group meeting the first week of the month. They chose Thursdays this morning. Then the executive committee meeting the second week of the month and the full council meeting the fourth week of the month will help stage a lot of the conversations and input. But I'm open to other suggestions. The floor is open.
And just a little additional context I would share. This is very common, I think, as I was sharing with Chelsea in meetings that all of us are in, where we have big chunks of information, we're making decisions, and we're slogging isn't probably the best word, but we are sifting through a lot of information. And I think, you know, the rhythm of the meeting will change as the agenda topics change. But I do worry sometimes about the engagement of the group. And sometimes, you know, I think we had 1 or 2 people who were especially engaged in our last meeting as certain topics came up, and wondered if you all had a similar thought, or if we should consider it, you know, it's just sort of the type of meeting that we were in. And then maybe as we look at future meetings moving forward, see if there are ways to, you know, engage more. And it may simply, and Chelsea, I also think, please know, you are so good at leaving space for people to jump in. And, you know, sometimes people do. More often than not, they may not, because it's that type of a meeting where we're just kind of cranking out votes and more. But just wanted to check in with the group to see, one, what your observations have been of the last couple of meetings. 2, if you have any thoughts moving forward, as Chelsea had just asked. So I just wanted to add those qualifiers to it.
Floor is open. I'm also only on one computer today, folks. I had to get a new personal laptop. So if you just want to come off of mute, that would be helpful.
It
Oh,
looked like
hey,
George
yeah,
was talking. Oh, there he is.
sorry, I am having a complicated audio situation myself. So yeah, Leslie, I agree with you. I think this is a chronic issue. I think it might have been a little worse in the last meeting.
Mhm.
The only solution I can think of is just trying to help people build their comfort around speaking up. And I don't know if that is picking some people that we're going to ask to contribute specifically on like a low stakes agenda item. And maybe there's also an opportunity here to keep working on like the moral paradigms work or
Mhm.
something. We just need to sort of, I think, push people onto stage in low stakes settings to help build comfort, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, I think those are really great. I think those are great points, George, and I think those might be some good strategies we could look at. Sometimes I wonder if the response or lack of a response is more so a reflection of just the vast quantity of information that we are covering and that people are digesting in real time with everything else that's on their plates. And sometimes that's just symptomatic of the type of meeting and information we have to get through, but I don't know if anyone has thoughts on that or or that component of it, I should say, which is repetitive, but it's Monday.
Is the meeting materials packet also working for you folks? I tried to mimic what the Jeffco Board of County Commissioners Executive Assistants do and try to put everything in that one PDF. I'm also, like I explained to Leslie, is I've just been playing catch up since October. I haven't been able to quite get ahead, but I'm getting in that spot where I am being able to like work ahead now that I'm hoping to get meeting materials to folks 1 week in advance so that you can do that preview.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone has any thoughts on the packet. I'm trying to lay low to see if there are any thoughts.
Just a couple of things, or one thing is sort of coming to my mind, and that's sometimes in some meetings we sort of do a go around the horn so that everybody has an opportunity to talk, not necessarily about something that may be on the agenda, but something that would be relevant to our duties or our charge, and to sort of get people familiar with talking online.
Okay.
Not quite sure how you format all of that, or whether how you sort of get it introduced. But if people have an opportunity to talk about something that they're comfortable talking about that's happening in their communities that relates to the work that we do, that may be another way to sort of elicit some input and get people used to talking together.
Love
But are
that.
you are you kind of talking about, for example, what we do in the lightning round when we have our municipal county meetings quarterly?
Yeah, and that happens in other forums that I'm at, but that's exactly what I'm talking about, Leslie.
That's great. Thank you.
All
Chelsea,
right.
I wasn't at the last meeting. I was at my two sister-in-laws' various things. But I know we've talked about it in the past. Part of it is since you've started, you're trying to get everything really lined up. So there's been a lot of new topics and a lot of read this, we want to approve this, and now read this, and we want to approve this. So once they're approved, like Euna and website things and the consultants for the assessment, of our work, though, then those kind of move past. So I think it's just been a concentration of a lot of things to read and make decisions on. So I think there's just an element of that going on as well. And I think it's always good to try to encourage people to speak up without them feeling called upon, because everyone has a different comfort level. You're stuck with 3 commissioners that are Gabby, so we don't
I love
hesitate
it.
to talk.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
But yeah, yeah. But I know like Marie's not on, and I know she's you know, I encourage her to come and say things, but I think she's learning and she's also new, and so new and not knowing the history takes a little while to catch up, you
Yeah,
know, in that. So
yes.
I have faith she'll talk more as time goes on.
Thank you. I love these ideas. I will work on how I can incorporate these in some future meetings. And again, I'm always open to suggestions. Feel free to call me, text me, email me after a meeting if something worked or didn't work for you. The next item is just a notice. So the council had approved Euna, which is a company for our grant administration software. I did mention in that August meeting that Euna had acquired another grant company or software called Amplifund. It was both a company and a software. I'm not a tech person, so this was like a coming to light thing. The initial software that was prospected was called E-Civis, and that was under the company or platform of Euna. The company is Euna. The platform is their grant management platform. When we went to schedule our project kickoff meeting last Friday, our rep had told us that Euna was moving away from E-Civis and towards Amplifund as the preferred software. And so I asked John if this was a breach of contract, kind of what we wanted to do about it. The demo went really well. It is almost an identical software, like they are wildly similar, especially for grantees and reviewers. The changes really come from my user engagement and building out the platform or customizing things. So I'm okay with this change. John, do you want to weigh in before we open the floor?
Yes, as a contractual matter, Euna drafts its EULA or drafted this particular EULA to be vague enough that we wouldn't have to amend it because it doesn't refer specifically to E-Civis or Amplifund, but just generally to their grant software. I think you know, we would have arguments if we determined we were not happy with Amplifund and we did not want to convert, but because Chelsea has demoed it and is comfortable with it, and it has all the same functionality, and wishes to just begin with them, I think the easy answer here is probably that we just accept that, and yeah, and there wouldn't be any need to take any other action. I think that's all I'll say, unless you guys wish to know more about what remedies we might have if we wanted to push back on this.
The floor is open.
You know, Chelsea, barring any major concerns you and Jean may have, I'm comfortable moving forward as long as this gives you what it is you need and we need to do our work well. It sounds like it will. It's just sort of under a different name.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Those are just my quick thoughts.
All right. If there's nothing else, I'm going to move on. So the advisory committee met this morning, and they love this kind of stage structure format where they meet the first of the month, and then again, the executive committee and the full council meet after that. And instead of making votes, they make recommendations, but they do see the same agendas for the executive committee and the full council to get their input. Again, just really giving them space to use their voice. In that meeting, I did bring up whether we wanted to include the 19 participating local governments on the advisory committee without the need to nominate and vote them. So very similar to the structure of our grantees, where they are just given a spot on the advisory committee. The 19 participating local governments within Region 10 would also have that. And the advisory committee did like this suggestion, so that recommendation is going to the executive committee. Based on the conversation here, it will go to the full council for a vote to modify the advisory committee structure. Floor is open.
So basically, we're just expanding the breadth of leadership on the advisory committee. People can, how will they determine who from their municipality, for example, would be a part of it? That would be an internal piece. If they want to come and attend, they can come and attend. We're not going to make it overly burdensome.
Yeah, so I received the contact list from the state when the Purdue forms went out, because the state would like regional councils to check in with their participating local governments, give them guidance on state recommendations to participate, if they have general questions about Exhibit E. And then also the regional councils should be keeping pulse on how the participating local governments are using their local share, or if they plan to donate it into the regional share. So each of the participating local governments probably has like 4 points of contact. And I just email them like, hey, here's an update. If you have questions, like I'm your touch point for the regional council. So we would just amend the structure to include an extra box here that has PLG in it. And they can choose, if we don't require like a nomination and vote the way we do the non-discretionary community members, that allows them to come and go as they please, pick who their representative is. But it would allow me that opportunity to keep pulse on how they're using opioid funds, if they have gaps in funding that the regional council could fill. Definitely help with networking between the grantees, discretionary, non-discretionary members.
So, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, bud. Question for me. This offer is open regardless of whether a municipality is keeping their local share or contributing it. It's just every municipality has this opportunity.
Correct.
Okay.
So this is Bud. Tell me again what is the composition of this committee potentially?
So it's right here on the screen. The advisory committee, based on the opioid IGA MOU, has to include non-discretionary members. That would be any community member. They have to be nominated by a voting member, voted on by the voting members. They have a 2-year term with no limit to the number of consecutive terms they can serve. The discretionary members are open to representatives from school districts in every county, and then fire districts with populations of 25,000 or more. They have to be appointed by the county commissioner on the regional council. Then unique to GROC is we include our grantees. They get to attend these meetings and again, just share their opinions, question, comments, concern. So then we would add the participating local government group. That way they don't have to go through this kind of like voting and appointment process.
Chelsea, just to clarify what you are thinking, and also for purposes of clarity, the fire districts and school districts are the non-discretionary members. With the grantees and with this thought on the other local governments, are you thinking that they are kind of in a different bucket? Because to make them a member per se under our regional MOU, we could do that, but we would have to go through the MOU nomination and voting process to do that.
Yeah, it's just an additional bucket
Okay.
of people.
And so are these like local elected officials, local staff people?
I would say most of the people I have encountered are local staff.
See, I think I guess I'm still not really clear on, I know you had sent out the email clarifying of the school district, fire district, but we're way under the 25,000. So I don't know how that threshold was set up, because that kind of means we'll probably never have those two seats represented, because, you know, our fire department's mostly volunteer, and the school district doesn't tend to jump in and participate on things. They're kind of insular. For the one school district that serves us. And I guess someone referred to this group as leadership. And I have a concern about that, because if suddenly there are 30 people, it grows to 40 people, and they all think they're part of leadership, they're going to maybe have the impression that their voice does influence a decision more than the executive committee and the partners committee. So I just, the terminology, I think I'm just saying be cautious, because we have people on advisory committees and they get frustrated when their opinions are not leading to direct decisions. So just to clarify that they're being heard and that their thoughts count, and it all is being part of the bigger picture and discussion.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I'm not sure who would have referred to the advisory committee as leadership. Maybe they, I guess, got confused when it was like community leaders, and they took that to mean leadership. But we are very explicit in the GROC advisory committee handbook that is still in draft form on why we chose the advisory committee structure. And there's no competing decision-making power. They support input from the community, but they don't have any type of decision-making power. That is outlined in the handbook. In terms of your first point for the school district and the fire districts, that is from the IGA and MOU. I did not have a say in that. I would just say, in the spirit of equity, that each county in Region 10 gets to appoint a fire district and a school district representative. Unfortunately, that's just not the case. The fire district representative would have to be from Gilpin County, would have to be considered the discretionary, where they are nominated by you and then voted on by the voting members.
Just a little bit of background on that. I believe that was structured that way to mirror the national settlements and some of the requirements about who needed to sign off on them.
And tell me again,
my
this is Bud. Tell me again, what is the fire department criteria to be on the committee?
25. They have to be in a district that serves 25,000 people or more.
In the district or part of the city or county that is it a special fire district included in that, or does the city need to have their own fire department?
Eric?
Yeah, it would be either way. So
Okay.
if the city has a fire department and they have 25,000 households served, they would qualify. If it's a fire district and they serve 25,000 properties, they would qualify.
Okay, well, I think if it's a city in Jefferson County, I think probably only Arvada is a city that has 25,000 people that has their own fire department. You know, Lakewood and Wheat Ridge use West Metro, I think, and Golden is not 25,000, I think, but I'm not sure. But they have their own fire department. So anyway, just clarifying that. Thanks.
Yeah, I said household. It's actually just population.
Yeah.
So I will circle back to Arvada, because when Eric and I initially dove into this, we had settled on West Metro and Evergreen were the only two fire districts that needed to be appointed. So Commissioner Dahlkemper, I might get back to you. You might have another appointment for Arvada City Fire.
Okay, sounds good.
I will double check with Eric on that. And then if they do qualify, then I will do that pointed outreach for them. But I did want to go to this like second bucket of just like an open seat for participating local governments, if that was something that we wanted to do unique to us.
You know, it probably would be more beneficial to have a staff person in that situation rather than an elected, I think. That's just my personal opinion.
It would be whoever that participating local government decided. So I would do that email to the points of contact that I have to each of these places, and they would decide. In some places, it's a county manager. In other places, they have an individual staff who is solely in charge of their local share of opioid funds. Sometimes it's a county clerk. So it would be whoever they wanted to include.
Yeah, I hear Bud's point too about staff, and I hear your note that it's whoever they wish to include or assign. And the nice thing about having staff is that as you have changes in those elected seats, hopefully you have some greater consistency with those staff members who are building their knowledge and understanding and contributing regularly and more. Chelsea, just on a completely different note, how are you feeling about these different levels of checking in with these major groups and sort of the coordination of that work and how they work together in a way that's effective and helping us move the work forward, and just given everything else on your plate? And by the way, the website is beautiful. Really incredible job on that. I can't wait to go in and explore it a little bit more, but wanted to mention that too.
In terms of how these groups work together, I don't yet have that answer because this advisory committee they met today for the first time to set their regular meeting structure.
Okay.
I got a lot out of just reviewing today's executive committee agenda meeting with them and getting their input. I took minutes. It's recorded. It'll be on our website. Higher education has a very similar structure. That's where I got this from. So I think it'll really help me kind of track ahead of time. And like I said, just get those community inputs. I'm working on tracking all these different groups. But again, if we just leave this extra bucket of PLG, I don't have to track individual names.
Mm-hmm.
It's that state contact list. Here's your calendar invite. You can forward it to whoever you want. It also helps those groups on board into opioid settlement and just kind of like the regional framework. But yeah, I think creating an extra bucket for them would be helpful and not meticulously tracking. Right, like these folks over here, I do have to track their 2-year terms, but with grantees, I don't have to track a term. If I have a PLG bucket, I don't have to track names and terms.
Hey, Chelsea,
Mm-hmm.
I gotta tell you, so only 2 in county are Blackhawk and Central City, and they agreed to turn over their funding because I think they really did not want to be that involved. And my concern is that the more people giving voice, it could end up being very skewed to the larger communities than the small. And it's all about getting money into your community for services in your community. So there could be that natural skew that happens. And then going back to why people are not as engaged, I think a lot of times too much process, people check out. It's, they want to be part of of action. So when I go to meetings and there's process, I'm like, oh, that meeting. So just to keep that in mind, especially for community members, I think that if they go and they're just listening to this process part, it may not be what they thought they were volunteering to be part of.
Yeah, and I do track county representation here. I do have a note, we need more representation from Gilpin and Clear Creek. So even the PLGs would be tracked here. That is something that I'm conscious about, taking meeting minutes, who showed up, they have an attendance just like the executive committee and the full council do. So that is something that can be brought up when we look at the recommendations and where the recommendations are coming from.
Yeah, and maybe I wasn't clear. Even if you create a seat for Central and a seat for Blackhawk, I highly doubt someone's gonna jump in and participate because it's more meetings, and they may, and this is just in working with them in other ways. If there isn't like a direct outcome, they may just not participate. Yeah.
So in the interest of time, do we want to table this recommendation to include the 19 participating local governments? I can take the concerns brought up today back to the advisory committee. They meet October 30th before the next executive committee meeting.
That may be wise. I mean, I can live with that. I also am more than comfortable just moving forward. Sandy, I don't know if you're expressing that concern, meaning that you don't want to do this, or just something to watch out for.
No, I'm, if you want to add it in, I think the voices can be important. I'm just saying that it you and that I just don't see R2 participating, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Yeah, that's, I
We
think
may,
it's, sorry, George, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay, I was going to say we are likely to experience that same thing with Clear Creek, and my hope, Sandy, is that this opportunity allows us to kind of find and cultivate the next people to make it onto the actual council from in those areas, right? If there's one interested council member from one of our municipalities, that would be a real win.
Yeah, that's a good point, George. We're sort of building the bench strength potentially. I also am comfortable moving forward with Sandy's cautions and just ensuring that we as an executive committee are aware of that. Should any of these themes start to percolate up, and also Chelsea, you are aware as well as you're working with that team, because that is such a core value of ours in terms of spreading it across, truly spreading it across the region, whether that's a conversation, whether that's giving direction, whether that's allocating funds. So I think Sandy's caution is a good one, but also, okay, moving forward with that in mind.
And I have one more comment. Sorry, just to, I don't know that the visual representation of the role of the advisory committee is quite matches with what's in my imagination. I don't know that the advisory committee advises the executive committee. I think those might be like kind of two separate bodies. Like, I don't know if they live in a structure like that. So I just might encourage you to think about whether the executive committee even needs to be mentioned in this handbook as one way to simplify this graphic, or break it out more like you'd see in an org chart where the executive committee kind of sits off to the side. As a minor concern that you can totally ignore, and I think outcomes will be meaningfully impacted.
No, but I think I never really thought of it that way, but instead of executive committee, it's almost like that's where Chelsea's spot is. They're all advising in to her, and then she brings things to us.
That's a great point. I will rethink this graphic. I always think of like the nutrition pyramid where it put carbs on the bottom and people interpreted it as like a hierarchy, but it's not. You just should have more carbs in your diet than you have fats in your diet. But because they made the graphic like that, it created this like huge health epidemic. So yes, I can definitely rework this graphic. Thank you for that feedback. So I will work on putting this into the 11:10 meeting. It'll probably get brought up again at the 11:03 meeting. Moving on to the executive committee resolution, we are revisiting identifying commissioners by position instead of name. In that conversation, I am going to set a timer on this. again, just in the interest of time, it is 1:40. My apologies, we've moved a little bit slower. The advisory committee did make a recommendation to change the position. They're not quite understanding, as neither am I, like why it's a name, because if it is a name, we have to go back to these processes and update it all the time. So yeah, floor is open.
I support position, which I did in the past. That's all I have to say.
And I think I was the one who got hung up on this one when we had the meeting about it. And I think what I was concerned about was that we didn't have, like, if I was concerned that the designee voting or being part of executive committee was not a commissioner. That, at least that's how I was understanding it, that it could be the county manager or it could be whoever your designee is. And first of all, am I understanding that correctly? Could a designee be someone other than another county commissioner?
I'm going to default to Eric.
Yeah, I'll add two things here. One is under the IGA, actually the county representative doesn't have to be a commissioner. It could be a county manager or somebody else. So it has been a commissioner to date, but it doesn't have to be. The second is that yes, when you add that language or their designee, I think you are opening the door for anybody who is in that position to choose at their own discretion who it is that will show up at executive committee.
Well, I am comfortable with the thoughts of the whole on this issue. And I think you know where I'm coming from. I just think the consistency in terms of the board and the commissioners is important. Your point is well taken. We really wanted to make sure that I'm sorry about the barking. I'm going to have to grab that in 1 second. I just think it's important that we've got consistency and that's why I was thinking it'd be nice to have the commissioner as the alternate. And in fact, we have a commissioner as an alternate, I think, for me, but I'm open. If the group feels that it's okay to expand that, I'm okay with that.
I think the right language here is just county representative, if that's what's in the IGA. And we know that right now that means the county commissioner. And maybe 5 years down the line, Clear Creek sends somebody from their staff. But I just think the county representative is the right language. And I would scratch the or designee.
So would it be the county representative that is the voting member of GROC?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
exactly.
Who is?
The IGA language is county voting member.
There we go.
I'm going to go back to what Leslie said too, because I do agree that I think the reason it was commissioner is that you want someone that has voting authority on behalf of the county. And a lot of staff aren't going to have that. They're going to say, oh, I got to check with the commissioners. So I think I know in our county, I think the preference would be that it would be a commissioner. But in the future, if there's a commissioner that really doesn't have an interest, just to have the door open, that it could be someone else. But I think that was a key thing, is they need to have decision-making capability, right? For their county.
Yeah, what the IGA says is the county voting member for each county may be a current elected county commissioner, or a senior member of staff with decision-making authority for such participating local government.
So just aligning the language in the executive committee resolution that these three positions would be the county voting member.
I think that sounds great based on what you all have shared. And I'm sorry for tying this one up a little bit.
I agree, and I'm hotly curious whether anybody not a county voting representative thinks about this. You all apparently are not guaranteed seats based on your position, and I'm just curious how you feel about that.
And we could, again, in the interest of time for now, is just focus on these three changing to the county voting member, but then Michael, Marie, Bud, and Tim, leaving them identified by name for right now. Knowing that Mayor Bud is rotating off this year, and we're going to have to revisit this conversation once his new person comes in, because they are not guaranteed a spot on the executive committee.
And it's so important to have that municipal perspective on this committee. I think we have a really strong balance right now.
I agree if it's someone that speaks up.
Same.
Like Bud.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Here.
There's-
How's that?
All right, so I have that at the 11:10 meeting, we are going to have the voting members vote on amending the executive committee resolution, changing Leslie, George, and Sandy to county voting member. And then we will revisit the other names versus positions in 2026 once Mayor Bud's replacement on the voting council has been identified and appointed. Does that sound good?
It sounds good. I want to throw this out there. I know we're taking too much time on this. We could right now just say, you know, individuals designated by the broader GROC, right? And then maybe we don't have to change the resolution every time. We can just like make a motion to have the designation change. And that's more of like a process thing that Butler might be able to help with. Eric Butler, sorry, but just a suggestion.
Yeah, so what the IGA says is we have to have a resolution to establish a committee, but that's a good thought. If we make this resolution broad enough, you don't need to amend the resolution every time. You just need a vote to put new people on it.
I have a clarifying question. If we use the term county voting member, each of our counties has 5 county voting members by discipline. So does that mean it has to be one of those 5?
Under the IGA, the county voting member is distinct from, for instance, the public health voting member or the human services voting member, which are those other types of county voting positions. So it matches the language of the IGA, but I hear your concern that it might be confusing if you aren't up to speed on the IGA language.
Eric, is this something that we can kind of play with and bring
Yes.
a new resolution to the November 3rd executive committee meeting before it goes to full council on 11:10?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've taken notes
So-
on this. Go ahead.
Sorry, I know you wanted to make this quick. Why is it that the advisory thought it should not say commissioner? What was their reasoning?
They also thought identifying a position instead of a name would help limit the need to amend. And then when we said, when I was talking to them this morning about the county commissioner language, the only real input I had was that decision-making power that you and I had previously talked about. There is more to this conversation now. So the goal would be for Eric and I to rework this resolution to be a little bit broader so that we don't have to amend it every time. That version would go to the advisory committee on October 30th. They would give some feedback. It would come to this group on November 3rd for a final, do we like this wording, to redo our resolution and go to the full council November 10th. All right, moving on. We do have delegation to the executive committee for the Grantee Playbook and the advisory handbook. That advisory handbook is almost done. I'm going to take some of the changes from today, especially regarding how that graphic looks. And then I will send it to the executive committee for your deeper view at the November 3rd meeting. The Grantee Playbook is also almost done. It's still being reviewed by the finance team and Jeffco to talk about expense reporting requirements and how we do audits. Once I get that back from them, that will also come to the executive committee for a deeper view And then again, I'm anticipating both of those on 11/3. If this committee reaches a decision, then it'll go for final review November 10th to the full committee, and then those will be adopted policy manuals. If this group has too many concerns or changes that I need to go back to the drawing board, then we'll move the full council review at the December meeting. Based on the September 22nd meeting, again being amendment to the standard operating procedures manual, does this group also want to request a delegation of that kind of fine tuning and review, making a recommendation for a mass approve, adopt to full council?
You're just asking here if we want to run it by the entire voting group for an approval of the standard operating procedure?
Yes.
I mean, I'm comfortable with that. And I always kind of struggle with what just we as an executive committee should do versus what the entire group weighs in on. Are they going to read the whole standing operating procedure? Some will, and some have, and weighed in at our last meeting. I think just based on the fact that we have engaged them throughout this process, I think it would be okay to include a vote of the group on this one. And it's a critical document in terms of how we operate. So for that reason, that alone may be wise to have them vote on it. I don't know. What do you all think?
My sense from the last meeting is that the broader committee would not want to delegate this SOP document. And I think some clarity over what we mean when we mean delegate, because in the last meeting it was said, oh yeah, let's delegate it, meaning that they bring us a recommendation. And that's not what I think we mean when we say delegate. That means it doesn't come to you, we just approve it. And so like these bullets in black, like delegating the grantee playbook and the advisory handbook make a lot of sense, but the SOP, this is like the nuts and bolts of how we make decisions with, you know, just like core fairness outcomes. And I don't think they will support delegating that wholesale to the executive committee.
So we're in
This is-
agreement then, right, that they would, sorry, but I jumped in there real quick. I just want to make sure, George, we're on the same page.
You know, I don't think we're going to
Yes.
get a lot of pushback on the standard operating procedure, and I think from a from a transparency and sort of a general approval, it might be a good thing to sort of seek that acceptance or
All right.
concurrence.
Perfect. We will leave that where it is then. Okay, moving into kind of the big part of today's meeting is a proposal from Jefferson Center for Mental Health. JCMH was a 2025 applicant to our general fund. They did not advance, but some GROC voting members and JCMH leadership wish to pursue an alternative mechanism for funding. So that would be our recently approved special projects pathway. It could potentially be a sole source. John would have to review that to approve to see if it met that criteria. But I did take all of the feedback from the scorecards, and I've been working with JCMH to put together this proposal. The advisory group did review it this morning, and they do make a recommendation to continue exploring funding this vital project through a special mechanism outside of the RFA. They did not say yay or nay, but it was just that we do need to consider this as a funding project outside of the RFA. JCMH is here for comment. There are two proposals in your meeting minutes packet. One of them is an overview of the Soterra Landing project. The other one is a guidance on different funding options. Are most people familiar with Soterra Landing at this point that I can just turn it over to questions and JCMH? Or would you like an overview of Soterra Landing?
I'm familiar.
Me too.
All right. So I will just keep this right open to questions and comments. JCMH is here to comment. I think my biggest concerns, they are asking for $1.5 million. I completely agree with how they got the $1.5 million request. We did ask them to identify the number of clients they serve from each region, specifically with a substance use disorder diagnosis and explicitly with an opioid use disorder diagnosis. So that comes to 15% of clients served, which is how they got the 1.5 million. That makes a lot of sense to me. The outstanding questions that I have are, they are pursuing the Jefferson County Opioid Task Force for funding. So would that 1.5 million be a matching award, a split award? Would the 1.5 million come from the regional council, and then some type of additional funding ask come from the Jefferson County Opioid Task Force? That would be in kind of like this, and we can put whatever questions or stipulations we want around this. The floor is open.
When will they hear about that request?
My understanding is, I don't know if Chris is in this meeting. I don't think so. My understanding is that that group is making recommendations to the Board of County Commissioners in Q1 of 2026, but it's not clear if, like, what's going to happen after they make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. Are they going to open some RFPs, some RFAs? Are they going to designate it to Jeffco departments? That is still up in the air. So it could be like Q2 of 2026 where we find out about their input.
And Chelsea, I'm sorry, just to be really clear, what is the specific action we need to take today in the space between now and this next major timeline coming up? Is it just indicating whether we're interested in pursuing this?
Yes, and if you are interested in the 1.5 million. So if the executive committee is content with the 1.5 million ask, it would go to the full council agenda on 11/10, where they could make a decision to approve the 1.5 million, not approve the 1.5 million, conditionally, partially.
Got it. Okay.
But the first step would be this group having any outstanding questions or concerns or conditions.
I guess I would just jump in and ask JCMH, what do you think we should know that perhaps we don't know? The last time we discussed this issue, is there any new information we should be aware of at this time?
Sure, I'll speak to that. Hello, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Just want to make sure.
Yes, we can hear
Okay.
you. Thanks.
I know many of you, but not all of you. I'm Jessica Dunbar, the Chief Business Development Officer at Jefferson Center, and I'm joined by my colleagues here, Talia and Andrea Turk. And, really what I appreciate that you are reconsidering our project for special funding. As we've discussed, some of you have participated in our feasibility study and are on our board. This really is a strategic investment, we believe, in the health and safety of the region. As we've been providing these essential services from crisis to detox, adult residential recovery, and other services for a long time. And we see a unique opportunity to bring them together under one roof, which will be new and needed. We think we could address more barriers that way and be more accessible, help people as they move through levels of care in their recovery journey. And so to your question, what's new is that we are at I think a real critical window, that right now funding that can be awarded to this project over the next couple months really positions us in a strong position as we try to leverage new market tax credits and work to get to a financial closing with our investment partners by next spring. They are looking for us to show that we have some other commitments from our regional partners, municipalities, counties at the state level, and even foundation level. And we believe that, what we're trying to accomplish with this project is well aligned with opioid settlement funding purposes. And so this funding request really allows us to be in a strong place when we're trying to leverage funding going into 2026 and beyond. And we want to also say that we can be flexible with what can work with your cycle. If it's one time now, if it's phased over a few years, we want to be flexible about what you think would be feasible with the important responsibility you have to be stewards of this funding for maximum impact. And but anything we can show as a commitment from our key stakeholders and partners really will help us be successful getting this started with our construction partners and get this renovation going that has an 18-month time frame. So we're anxious to get going, and funding right now will really allow us to make important progress.
Thank you.
Jessica, will you remind us, in my understanding of Soteria is going to serve a large number of people at that location. I know we've had other requests from other entities and their service levels are much smaller. Can you kind of quantify for us how many people this would reach through this model?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yes, we expect, and I think this is a conservative estimate, that we could serve over 5,000 people with this new campus. And that is looking at, the current number of people that we serve coming in for walk-in crisis stabilization, withdrawal management, and our adult residential recovery program. And the extra bed capacity that we're planning. So right now across those programs, we have 51 beds, and at the new facility, we'll have 80. And that will be split between crisis, detox, and adult residential recovery. So this will really be a new model of care that uniquely addresses people with dual diagnoses. With severe mental illness, with addiction conditions. And there is nothing like this for people on Medicaid or who are uninsured or moving between. We know that there's a lot of movement between private insurance and Medicaid and back and forth. This is going to be available to everybody, and integrating these services for no matter what someone's level of acuity is or complexity, we can help, at least we think 5,000 people or more. What I would add to that is we want this to be a community. We want to foster community collaborations too. We'll have integrated pharmacy, and we'll have space for our partners to come together in unique ways around with our community space and resource navigation space that we can be really creative with to make sure we're raising awareness. We can try new engagement strategies together that we maybe haven't yet. And so I think that number can even go up too.
Jessica, this is Bud Starker. Thank you for being here today to talk about this program. I had two questions. One of them is the new facility going to add 80 beds, or is it going to get you to a total of 80 beds? So it's adding 21 beds to your facility. What?
Yeah, it would be a total. So, like I said, we have 51 now across those high intensity programs, and we'll get up to 80.
Okay, so that was working out to somewhere $1.5 million a bed if you're adding 21 beds. So a lot of this must be not for capital expenditure, but must be for operations. Is that correct?
Yeah, let me explain the funding a little bit more.
Okay.
So, the project in totality is a $43 million project. And that's with the purchase that we made already with our cash reserves at Jefferson Center. And then we plan to, the renovation cost is about 36 million. And so with that, we plan to leverage new market tax credits, and that could return 6 to 7 million. We plan to sell some buildings that could, we estimate, be about 12 million to go into this, where some of the crisis and residential programs are now. We can reinvest to get towards that renovation number. And then we want to limit the long-term debt. So we know that we'll have some debt that we carry, and that's what we're trying to get to a good position for closing next spring. And we want to limit that to 9 million or less. And then that gets us to a $10 million fundraising goal that we've set. And that is going to be a capital campaign connected to this capital project. And 1.5 million is a component of that subset of 10 million, which is really our fundraising goal.
Okay.
And so we're trying to be smart and thoughtful about diverse funding to make all this possible. And we're asking you all to consider some funding to help us with that component of it that really still does unlock a lot for us to keep making progress towards our finish line.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I had was talk a little bit about your ongoing funding model, so that when you have this facility up and operational,
Yes.
how will you and describe a little bit your ongoing funding and how that will continue to support this operation long into the future?
Yes, thank you for that really important question. Not only making sure we cover the renovation, but we can operate it, sustain it long term. So I'll say right now, we have been operating these programs, some of them for decades. And we use funding from a variety of sources. Some funding comes from what we can bill for Medicaid. Some of that funding we bill also for people that have private insurance, where these services are in those contracts, and we're working to expand that. We get funding from the state through Signal Behavioral Health. That there's funding from the state legislature or the state budget allocated through Signal to help with the part of our ongoing operations that helps us cover the costs, frankly, of people that don't have insurance and some of these other essential services. And then we have pharmacy revenue built into this, and we plan to grow that as a revenue source, and then the fundraising aspect of it. So we have built out a 7-year pro forma for the operating model for City Area Landing. We can go as deep into that as any of you are interested in. We've had to show that for our lenders to dig into, that we are really solid with these plans. Not only how we get going, but how we sustain it. And we feel very confident with Jefferson Center's long history, our expertise billing for these services, delivering these services, and with the expanded capacity, the extra revenue that we can earn to make it all work.
Thank you very much. That was illuminating.
Good.
As a reminder, we currently have 4.6 million available and ready to disperse. That would be our unobligated. That does not include the funds that are available to be called down at the November 15th request. At this time, I will not be participating in that request. Like I said, at the September meeting, I need to get a better grip on our budget. We also have a meeting with the state next month regarding pulling down funds, but not immediately dispersing funds so that they accrue interest. So I am waiting to hear guidance on that. So again, we have 4.6 million available at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Shore-Miller. Couple of questions for you, Jessica, and good to see you. And full disclosure to this body, I do serve in a volunteer position as a member of the board of JCMH. I do not think that amounts to a conflict of interest, but I want you all to know. I know a fair amount about this project and want to see it succeed. Jessica, can you, I think my first question is, the other $8.5 million, do you already have $8.5 million worth of commitments?
Yeah, good question. No, we do not yet. We have secured a little over 700,000, also towards that $10 million goal. There's this request, and we have several requests out there right now to private foundations. So the Breton Family Foundation, Colorado Gives Foundation, the Gates Family Foundation, some of them participated in our feasibility study, and that also gave us unique insights into positioning our requests for success here. And so those requests are there. We're going after the funding that we know about, these open cycles. And we expect that the capital campaign, like most others, will take a few years to reach that $10 million goal. And so we have plans after this feasibility study where over 30 people that have, that are close partners, major donors, that are civic leaders and beyond, gave us insights into how we shape this capital campaign. And then from there, we're going to build momentum. We're going to build awareness. We're going to invite people to give at major levels and even, lower levels to reach that big funding goal. So it's going to take some time, but we're applying all the best practices as it relates to funding for capital projects with what we're doing here.
Okay, thank you. I actually think that's my only question for you. Well, one more, just because I know this will come up, and I don't know if we have practice. I don't know if we have written policy in this place, but in the past when we've invested in capital, we wanted to really think about how many individuals are served by those dollars over the long run, what kind of a time commitment there is to keep the facility open and operate it. Mm-hmm. In a couple of words, how long do you imagine this facility will be in operation?
Oh, I hope for decades and decades. And just like Jefferson Center has a 67-year history of serving the community, I see this being a service that we continue to provide as long as we can and as long as there is need. So I don't see a finish line here, but we're committed. We're committed to keeping it going and making sure that we can provide an innovative, responsive model of care. And we know that there's so much need here that we're uniquely positioned to bring solutions to.
And Jean, GROC does not have policy on capital campaigns to require the number of people served in a term use agreement. This would not follow the same precedent as Monarch because the funding would be going towards construction. So and I'll have Jean weigh in here if this does not sound correct, is if this committee were to vote that, yes, we want to pursue the 1.5 million, that sounds great. I would work with Jean on the explicit funding mechanism, any additional requirements we would want from JCMH in preparation for the 11/10 full council meeting to vote on whether they do want to pursue the 1.5 million.
Thank you. That's helpful. The questions may arise if in a slightly different format. I think, well, first off, I am in support of bringing this to the bigger committee. I think that's wise. I don't know that the executive committee needs to make a recommendation on how to respond to the request. What I'm focused on more is which of these options we want to recommend. And I mean, my thought is that I don't know that the GROC needs to be concerned with the decisions of the Jefferson County Task Force. I think we more need to be concerned with what we think the impact of these dollars would be and how many dollars we want to put on it. The Jefferson Task Force is just another potential funder. And we're not asking what Colorado Gives may do or anybody else. And so my suggestion to the executive committee is that we just pass this $1.5 million grant request on to the GROC and not complicate the conversation with, you know, discussion of other funders who are not us. So I think that's my opinion at this point as to kind of how the executive committee might respond.
So we do.
Question, Chelsea.
Yeah, really quick, Sandy. We do require people to disclose that they're receiving funding from other ROACs through the letters of acknowledgement. So we would want to know if JCMH is pursuing funding from any other ROAC or participating local government, if they have an idea of what that ask is and a timeline. So that would be part of their proposal documents to include in the 11/10 meeting.
I guess my question.
If that's the policy, sorry, Sandy. If that's the policy, I can live with it. I just think that they're asking us for $1.5 million, and that's what we should pass along. But sorry, Sandy, for interrupting you.
I guess my question is more about this process today. It doesn't seem like we would be meeting with other funding request people and talk about our recommendation with them present, but is that your intention today?
For special,
is that we're doing this?
Yeah, so the special projects or sole source, the first step is that I work with whoever that person is on drafting some type of proposal, and it would go to the executive committee. And then the executive committee says, this proposal is ready for full council. It's not quite ready. We have several outstanding questions. So you're not making any type of funding decision today. It's just, is this proposal ready to go to the full council?
Yeah, and so, but you want to do that with everyone present?
Yes.
On this meeting right now?
Well, yeah, because it's a public meeting, so.
Yeah. Okay, so we might do this in the future with another entity. Okay. All right. So I'll just add on with George. I did mention I'm also on the Jefferson Center board, but I do agree we don't have a conflict of interest as far as any kind of benefit to ourselves. We are on there to represent our communities. And I do support this project. I do support the funding, as George just said as well, because I think it's going to be, you know, one stop. They're looking at consolidating and stopping all these separate locations, and using those the sale of those properties toward this property. And I think that just this model is where we're at, you know, in the world of mental health now. And I feel like they're a step ahead by having already been working on this project. And so, you know, I wish them a lot of luck, both on this meeting and in our other board meetings. And I think that one of our roles on the Jefferson Center board is to encourage revenue, encourage funding, encourage exploring. And we don't do anything as far as operations. We don't advise like you should do this and that and this and that, but to look at the bigger picture. So I just see this as a great benefit to our region. And I'll just stop there.
And Jessica, I just wanted to make one more, make sure that I understood that this facility would be open and serving residents from all three counties, from Clear Creek and Jefferson and Gilpin. And
yes, absolutely.
And I also, this to me, it sounds like this is sort of seed money in your financing plan to be able to go to other organizations and say, listen, we've got the GROC behind us on this. And I'll go ahead and say that I support this project also. I think you guys have been good partners for my city and in our county and doing good work throughout the area. So I'm going to support this position.
Thank
And
you.
this is Leslie. I'll pile on the support and also echo the thanks for all the work that JCMH does. One of the things that we have thought more and more about as a council is how do we think about those projects that may not fit neatly into the criteria that we use? The impact, though, I think, of these construction dollars has an immediate effect, even though it's not necessarily in the form of treatment and prevention and more, but it will lead to that by creating this space and serving even more people in our region. I think that's critical. So I'm very excited about bringing this forward to the larger group, the larger voting group, and would support that as well. And thanks again, Jessica and Talia, for being here.
Yeah.
Thank you.
In the interest of time, because I do need to get some calendaring done with you folks, I will go ahead and work with Jean on what would be the best mechanism and what we need in terms of a more formal proposal for the full council on 11/10. And I will continue working with Talia and, wait, did I say it right? Talia and the folks at JCMH to get that put together for, again, like I said, 11/10. All right. Thank you, JCMH. You guys are welcome to stay or you guys can depart. I'm going to come back to the RFA. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to come back to the RFA analysis graphics because I do need to get some calendaring done with you guys. So the advisory committee will meet on the first Thursday of the month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. That will be completely virtual. The executive committee meeting is going to stick to the second Monday of the month from 1 to 2:30, also in that virtual format. Full council will stick with the fourth Monday of the month from 1 to 3 p.m. But do we want to continue rotating in physical spaces? Do we want to add virtual meetings in there? I need to set location.
I'd like to throw out a recommendation to the group. Chelsea, just a quick question. What do we have on average? 10 meetings a year, do you think? Or as we look at 2026, just for GROC, is it going to be about 10?
I'm going to say all 12, one full meeting a month for the full council, and then one executive committee meeting. So the folks in this room would have 24 meetings.
Okay, but just sticking with the GROC meeting, we're going to say that's 12, even though hopefully you'll give us one summer month off, but we'll see. That is to be determined on how effective we are in meeting goals we have. But let's say we have all 12 meetings. I have a suggestion. What if we continued with our idea of rotating, all right, but every other meeting, as we used to do, was virtual. So we would have one rotating meeting, which could be hybrid. The next meeting would be virtual. Then we go back to hybrid, then virtual only. We could continue to rotate it if folks feel that has been, effective. It also reinforces the regional perspective of how we do things. And it seems like the technology generally worked for the most part, right? Everything was fine there on all of our ends.
Yeah, I definitely have some in-room stuff to figure out, but it generally works. So that would be every odd month is a virtual meeting, and every even month is a physical meeting, and we rotate across the 3 counties. Floor is open.
I like that. I would suggest that maybe Gilpin, Clear Creek are in a warmer month. So we're not, because I think it gets really iffy if we're meeting in, so it would be even months. So December could be iffy, and it's too bad when people can't come up. because then it kind of defeats the purpose. But I
Yeah.
have to say, yeah, even ours, Gilpin, I was disappointed that the people that work in Gilpin didn't show up in person.
I'm
But,
also
you
going to
know,
tell you guys, I am not a great driver. So full disclosure that if it's snowing November and December, that is going to become a virtual meeting. I'm not going to drive in the mountains in the snow. I'm so sorry. I am not a good driver.
I would also,
safety is more important.
yeah, for sure. I would also suggest that we at least one meeting a year, or maybe once every 6 months, that we really try to encourage people to come together at a, you know, in person. I think we get a lot of different insights when we meet together in person that we don't do here. I think this is pretty effective for a lot of business sort of propositions, but I think if we really have an opportunity to meet face to face, that we should encourage that. And I don't mind driving in the mountains, but I'm rolling off.
I really like that. I like having maybe even two where there's just no virtual option. And I think in general, whether the meeting's in Jefferson County, which it can be way more hazardous trying to drive around in the metro area when it's snowy than pretty little Idaho Springs. Or in between. So yeah, I just think if it's snowy, let's go virtual as a plan. And otherwise, I like everything that's been said.
So the only one that is kind of up in the air is December is set to be Clear Creek. It's definitely going to be snowing in December. My goals are to give you July and December off. But then we would only have 2 in Clear Creek and 3 in Jeffco, 3 in Gilpin.
I can live with that if it means that I don't have to come to a GROC meeting 3 days before Christmas.
Okay.
Oh my gosh.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, I didn't even think of this. This is 3 days before
that's a
Christmas.
really good point. Can we call December and July, do you think? Or do you feel like we need to have that placeholder just in case?
Yeah, I'd rather have a
I-
placeholder just in case, because
Okay.
sometimes there are some policy stuff that I need from you folks. I will see if I can rework this. That does kind of bring me up to like December 8th. That is currently set to be in Clear Creek. If we just wanted to go ahead and make that a virtual presentation or a virtual meeting and really just focus on the 2024 awardees sharing out. So I would have very minimal business that I do have to push through. But then again, that would be a virtual meeting, and the 2024 awardees would be sharing their impact from their first year of their award.
I'm comfortable with
Love
that
it.
if you all are comfortable with it.
Chelsea, I was just looking at the calendar. Do you have us set up for November 3rd? That would be the first Monday.
No, you are the 3rd. Executive committee is November 9th.
Okay.
Oh,
9th? You mean 10th?
this year, are you talking about 2025?
Yeah.
Yes. The executive committee is supposed to be meeting on November 3rd.
Oh, well, I just thought of this, but we have elections on the 4th, and they will be using that room for election purposes. That's where
it's a virtual executive committee meeting on November 3rd.
No, I guess I'm asking which is the one that would be in person in Gilpin, to make sure I'm looking at that date again.
Are you talking about 2025?
Yeah.
That would be November 10th.
Right. And the 11th is a holiday.
We can make
So I just,
November and December virtual.
I would support that. I think a lot of people may take a long weekend. Not us, of course.
We just work. Just I know we're like close to time, but this just popped into my head. And Tim, I'm curious if you, Dr. Ryan, apologies. I'm curious if you want to build on this. We think with that building on the second floor that we met in last time may not be great for the client experience, our clients, to have people walking around in that area during the day, like commissioners and such. Tim, is that our position? Are we trying to encourage people to like maybe go to the boardroom in Idaho Spring or in Georgetown or Idaho Springs City Hall? Am I off base? I'm kind of bringing that up.
I would agree with that. I think we have clients from JCMH, clinic clients, all kinds of clients. They're on the second floor. So yeah, it does. Not to suggest that that room is not usable, but when we have large gatherings there like that, it does create challenges.
Well, we
So
might.
I'll
This
put a
is just a
TBD.
flag. Yeah, it's just a flag for you, Dr. Shore. We can find a place in Idaho Springs or just ask people to go to Georgetown. But yeah, I think we're trying to give clients some enhanced privacy during the day over there.
Perfect. So we'll make November and December virtual of this year, 2025, as virtual meetings. In terms of the 2026 locations in Clear Creek County, I'll put a TBD. We'll stick with the Gilpin County Courthouse, Jeffco Fay Griffin Conference Room. I can work on getting all of those schedules and calendars invite out. And then just kind of the last question I have, again, being cognizant of time, 2026, the GROC is due for some type of conference or summit. I just need to gauge interest in making this happen because I do need to start planning for it now.
Do you think at this, I think we would. They have always been very popular in terms of the conferences. I think you're right in terms of starting to plan sooner rather than later. That makes really good sense. We've got a pretty good template that we can use or that we can switch out and change. And, we won't be starting from scratch necessarily, even if we want it to look different than what we've done in the past, which I think is also great. And I do think it provides us an opportunity for everyone to come together in a way that is super engaging and also allows us to step back and say, oh, okay, here's what we've accomplished, or here's some gaps we still need to look at. And it seems to me at that point, we should have enough for a really good panel discussion and a variety of presentations from our awardees as well, right? Do you think so in terms of the progress that they're making?
Yes. I think we will have enough from our 2025, 2027 awardees for them to do a share out for sure.
Nice. Great.
All right, and again, coming up on time, I am going to move the RFA analysis strategic plan revisions. I'm going to move that conversation to our executive committee meeting on 11/3. I will try to keep that agenda a lot tighter and more on track for you folks. And then I'm still building out the November 10th agenda, so I don't have a lot here. But yeah, are there any other kind of final questions, comments, concerns, thoughts?
No, just great work as always, Chelsea. Really appreciate you. So many moving parts, and thank you for keeping us on the straight and narrow. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, folks.
Chelsea, I'm just gonna say, don't sweat the ebb and flow of meeting attendance. I mean, people have such full jobs now. I know we all have to pick and choose, so thank you.
Yes, thank you.
All right. Good to see everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Happy Halloween.